What are you going to get that's better? Why am I feeling? One of the things I love most about doing what I do is going into a world other than my own and learning as much as I can about it, absorbing as much as I can about it, and then putting it back in service of a story. Eric Ross' original screenplay for Lucky You gave me the long sought-after opportunity to make a movie in the world of high-stakes poker playing. The challenge was to deal with the poker in a way that felt real to the people that know the game, and yet at the same time deal with it in a way that's entertaining and interesting to those viewers who don't know the game and don't care about the game.
Do you know how to play poker?
I know that 3 of a kind beats 2 pair.
Very good.
We like going into different areas of life and different types of people and exploring them and trying to figure out a way to show their humanity, but also to show what's specific and particular to their way of life.
Very early on in the research process, we went to Las Vegas and spent time watching the 2003 World Series of Poker. And during that time, watching that tournament and talking with people, it became very clear that the world of poker was undergoing an enormous change. 3 things had happened concurrently. One, it was the year that the whole card camera was introduced for the first time, which made the game much more popular on television, giving the viewer at home the opportunity to see what all the players had. 2, internet poker had taken off in a big way. Number 3, in that 2003 World Series, an internet poker player who had not played almost any live poker at all came out of nowhere and won the tournament.
With a full house, Chris Moneymaker eliminates Sam Farhall.
Most of us, unless we're delusional, don't think we can go out on the basketball court and play one-on-one with Allen Iverson or go on the golf course with Tiger Woods. But Chris Moneymaker, this internet player, by winning the tournament, demonstrated that if you play well and have a little luck, in fact, you can do that very thing in poker. And consequently, all of us were encouraged to fantasize, and the popularity of poker just exploded.
Well, things have definitely been different from 2003 to now. So many more people involved in poker. The World Series has grown from, I think before Chris Moneymaker, there was like maybe 500 players to 8,000 last year.
The best of the veteran players who, for decades, had played anonymously, by choice in many cases, suddenly were finding themselves being celebrities.
People that used to, back in the old days, they'd cross the street to keep from having to say hello to me because I was a gambler. Well, now then they come to town, they call me, want to go to dinner.
You have to understand, poker players lived in a cave. Nobody really knew about us, nobody really understood us, and now it's just all changed.
It was really the first year that poker had become so big. And the players didn't necessarily know it, nor the people who were running the tournament, that this was going to happen.
The world was changing, and we felt that if we could capture that, it would add immeasurably to the texture of Lucky You.
The game's being marketed now, they need celebrity gamblers.
That's LCG.
Like everything else, they want to pretend it's the way it used to be.
Once having made the decision to set the movie in 2003, the challenge then became to accurately recreate the world of 2003 as best one could. And then, just like in a hand of cards, luck came into play. The Bellagio decided to remodel their poker room.
So we lucked into being able to acquire all of their accessory items, the tables, the chairs, all of the paintings and murals on the wall.
The chandeliers, the sconces, the drapes, we got it all from them. Even the carpet is from there, from 2003.
We were able to then completely reconstruct the room 100% identical to the way it existed before.
It was fantastic, because this is a very intricate set to build. There's so much lattice work and detail in the ceiling, and just to get their floor plans and them being so cooperative was was amazing.
It not only looks like it, it actually is the Bellagio.
I was freaked out. It blew me away. I was like, dude, I've been here.
And we did the same thing with Binion's. We built a replica of Benny's bullpen, the upstairs room where historically the World Series has always been played, but is no longer.
Binion's is such a special place in the hearts and minds of the poker community because it's where the World Series of Poker began.
Walking into this room and seeing this room here in LA and seeing how realistic it looks, and the set dresser has just done an amazing job setting this room up. I actually got chills.
Dealers, shuffle up and deal. Let's get those cards in the air.
Jason Lester was one of the players we observed in 2003. He made it to the final table of the main event, and we enlisted him to help us create our fictional version of that year's tournament. In addition, we had the assistance of Matt Savage, who was the tournament director of the World Series of Poker for many years, including 2003. Our goal was to be true to the time and the place, even though our characters in the poker hands were fictional. We very much wanted the poker in the movie to be real, and consequently every hand in the movie is based on a real hand, either a tournament hand or an observed hand in a cash game. We were incredibly fortunate to enlist Doyle Brunson as our poker consultant.
Doyle was really the guy who had to ultimately say, this is a credible, believable hand. The betting pattern makes sense here. This guy, based on who you're telling me he is as an individual, as a character, this is consistent with the way he would play the hand.
He faxed me the hands that they were going to have in the movies. And I would look at them, and I would make the changes that I thought was appropriate. And I'd fax them back to Curtis. And if he had any questions, he'd send them back to me, and then I would correspond with him that way. One of the hands in the movie is based on a hand that Chip Reese and I played a long time ago. He was a very young poker player. I think I had the ace and king of diamonds, and he had the deuce and the five of diamonds.
Don't chase what you can't catch. No matter what's prudent, sometimes you gotta play your gut.
I moved in all my money, and he called me with two deuces.
Call. Stuck on deuces.
He correctly read that I was drawing it at flush also. I asked him, well, we're drawing at 1-2. What would happen if we'd have made our flush? He said, well, I'd have thrown it away. I said, yeah, right, you'd have thrown it away.
I mean, everything has been so meticulously planned and then changed, you know, because, well, if it was a 8 of hearts instead of an 8 of diamonds, it would be more interesting for his character because, you know, he's going for a flush draw now instead of, you know, it's like, oh, my God.
Let Chow pick his hand for a second. Low. Yeah, what low hand do you want? It has to lose. Yeah. It's a 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. Yeah, let's give him an 8-6. So you got an 8-7, he's got an 8-6.
86 for low?
87.
I think that in the movies, I don't think the poker hands have ever been really realistic.
There's always this tendency to make each hand so important, you know, with royal flushes and so forth. And in fact, we make a point of having a straight flush in the movie and then commenting on how rare that is.
The last straight flush of the final table in the World Series of Poker was 1994. There were none before that.
The betting is, every bit as important as the cards that you hold. Curtis and I would discuss the way and the amounts that should be bet at the proper times, and I think that's an important thing in the movie too. I think you'll see that the way that people bet is really the way that we do bet.
See if we can get you there a little faster, cowboy. Raise.
The challenge with the poker was how to film it. Cinematographer Peter Deming and I wrestled with how to shoot these groups of players sitting around a table and make it dramatic. Now, on television, there's the whole card camera, which allows the viewer to be in a somewhat godlike position because they know more than anybody at the table knows.
Oh, but Jason Lester doesn't know that. He goes all in, and Moneymaker calls immediately.
But that's not what playing the game is like, obviously. And as a filmmaker, I like to tell my stories from as strong an individual point of view as possible. So We shot all of the hands and all of the games from Huck's point of view. We see Huck see his whole cards, and then we watch him trying to figure out what everybody else has. And that allows the viewer to think along with Huck. My hope was that the audience would then identify more with Huck and feel the difference between the way Huck is at the table and the way he is away from the table.
You think that the only person that matters is you! What you need when you need it!
It always interested me that the very skills that one tries to develop that serve one well at the table, namely aggression, being completely without sympathy, and also duplicity, bluffing.
Yeah, but he's a poker player, Billy, so you can't believe anything he says.
Busted. Those skills are almost the exact opposite of what one needs in a normal human relationship, where you want to have empathy, you want to have honesty, you want to put the other person first.
Don't you ever get lonely?
That dichotomy I always thought was very interesting, and I thought in Lucky You, the poker could serve as both an illustration and a metaphor for the relationships.
The way that poker players have to deal with their game and their profession, I think it can extend over into your life. And I think a lot of people live that way anyway, whether they're poker players or not, and they have to learn to let go.
This isn't your style, going out on the limb.
Some people think I spend my whole life out on the limb.
Maybe at the poker table, but in real life you play it pretty tight.
I think that a lot of the guys who really excel at this game, who do this for a living and play 5-6 days a week for 8 to 10 hours a day, they become so accustomed to being completely buttoned up emotionally and shut down emotionally at the table that I think it's very hard for them to then kick into some sort of program of interpersonal connection with people when they're away from the table.
Well, the ability to trust takes a pretty big hit in this profession. I mean, when you're starting at the poker table, you're always starting from a standpoint of not trusting the other person. It's probably certainly hurt me in my personal relationships. I mean, it's harder for me to trust people now.
You say whatever you think somebody wants to hear. It's dangerous to be around you.
It takes a special person to stay with the gambler, especially 40-something years, like my wife and I've been together for 40-some-odd years. I get so focused sometimes when I'm playing poker regularly that I just almost don't know what else is going on. And it took her years to recognize that, but I actually get to where I feel like there's a lead weight right inside my head that I get so focused. I'm sure that's hard to live with.
I want you to give me another chance.
Why should I?
What we're trying to do is tell the story of characters who are seeking some emotional truth. And I think in some ways the search that they're going through is very similar to what people go through at the poker table. It's about learning to take risks. It's about winning and losing. It's about understanding how to pick up and start again the next day. It's about making the right choices and the wrong choices and learning how to distinguish between the two. It's about what happens when you grow older and wiser and learn to play the game better. And it's about knowing what's important ultimately in life.
Nice hand.
In some ways, Lucky You is the story of a man whose emotional life is based on his relationship with the game of cards instead of his relationship with other people.
Am I that easy to read?
When you know the tells.